to the Gaming Discourse. I'm Tyler Frater alongside Richard A. the Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Good evening.
It is Monday, July 21st, 2025. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Gaming Discourse, patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse. You can support us for $247, $10. It's your name in the video credits, early access to our videos, access to our Discord server, and more. Every Friday, I do a little blog on our Patreon about something random. This past Friday, I blogged a little bit about a mobile gaming and something that Chris Dring wrote. He's now no longer of gamesindustry.biz. He's now doing his own thing, the Games Business newsletter. But something he wrote, and I kind of just had some thoughts on it and shared that. That's free. So if you go over YouTube or go on Blue Sky, I posted it. It's free. You can check it out. But next week will probably just be another free post. Then after that, my vacation ends, and I'm getting back into finishing the rough draft of the Splinter Cell Splinter Cell Blacklist retrospective. So all those updates and all that stuff will be on our Patreon. So go check us out. And yeah, okay. We've got a ton of news. We've got a ton of games. I've been playing lots of stuff because of my semi-vacation. Connor, what have you been playing?
I don't play video games anymore.
Richard, what have you been playing?
I play more Cyberpunk.
Yay!
I'm amazed at how fast that game goes. If you're doing like the story missions, I do run around and like figure out what's going on in the world. But if you're doing the story missions, they seem to go very quick, and they're all concise in their own. Because I feel like there's three different like things going on at once, like concurrently. There is the stuff with Arasaka and
Johnny Silverhand,
and then the stuff with Arasaka and I forgot his name, Japanese guy. Although those are intertwined.
Yeah, you're talking about the bodyguard.
Yeah. But also,
yeah,
if you're like, if you plan to like, if you're playing MacLeod and plan to do like a romance with Panam, like her events run concurrently with and intertwine with what's going on like in the main story. So it kind of feels like no matter what you do, you're accomplishing what you need, everything, and you're getting a real clear and concise like story told to you. And I really appreciate that. And it's to the point now to where I had to stop and be like, wait, when does Phantom Liberty start? And it tells you kind of when it starts. But I'm at that point where I'm like, oh, I can just do it now. I can just jump in now. And
so it's not an after.
No, you should do it if you want it to flow. You should do it
at a certain point.
Absolutely, obviously before the game ends. But I'm about to start. I don't know how much you remember, but the parade is going to happen in Tokyo Town.
Very cool.
And cool, good to know. Yep. And I just, the way I read how things. Not how things play out in a spoiler sense, but like mission structure wise. Yeah. I felt like right now is like, I can probably just start Phantom Liberty right now.
From what I remember about the parade, that's there's some big events that happen around the parade, so it's probably a good time.
Yeah, because the affliction that V has is like in the story quest is like happening more frequently. So I think it. I think it naturally just kind of like leads you into like deciding when to do all this stuff, which like I said, is very appreciative. And I like it a lot. And the game is going by very smoothly. And so I look at my save file and it says it's like 30 hours, but I do not feel like I played that much at all.
What kind of build are you doing?
Shoot people
build?
Yes.
Noise.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? By and large, most of the game I've forgotten to just upgrade everything. Like, I think I have tons of upgrades like ready to go, but I don't need them.
See, I can't. I'm not like that. I dislike that.
I'm a one-man army.
If it's an RPG, I want to be able to RPG. So it's like I'm gonna pick, and I'll eventually play through Cyberpunk again, and I've never finished it. I've gotten up to the precipice of finishing it, but I've never actually finished it because the first time. This is after it came out, bugs everywhere. The second time, I kind of just lost interest, and I didn't really like my build, and I was like, moved on to something else. So, and then Phantom Liberty came out, and then it keeps getting updated. So I think,
you're gonna have to redo your build.
Yeah. So I think next time I play through it, I'm just gonna do another fresh start. So it'll be like the third, essentially the third playthrough for me for Cyberpunk, but. what I do is I always do a sword build, and I don't even carry, like, I'll carry a gun maybe just in case, because I think there's like drones that you have to shoot and stuff, I think.
Yeah.
But other than that, I break everything. I force like rare shotguns, rare assault rifles.
Sure.
I break them down or sell them. I force myself to stick with a blade, and totally like build my V that to a full on like melee build.
It's tough to stay when you play a first person like RPG like this. Ever since, actually, you know what, Oblivion did it too. It's very tough for me to not be sneaky, like to just break out of that. To just break out, stealth, to just break out of that mold.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, I use mostly guns. I have it's basically a P90, but I use that in like a Magnum. But it's very hard to not sneak around everywhere and not to just like hack people and like blow their heads up.
Yeah, well, that's totally like
really
a valid,
awesome. Yeah,
it's totally like a valid way to do things.
Yep.
And yeah, every time you talk about Cyberpunk, I think about, I don't know, I feel like this is a conversation that a lot of people have, is if Cyberpunk released in the state that it is in right now, I feel like the narrative would be completely different, because Cyberpunk does have that the dialogue system, I think, is something that is sneakily innovative.
Yeah.
Where you can walk up to somebody, you have a conversation, you can walk away at any point. And it's just, and when you play Avowed sort of, you click on someone to talk with them, and all of a sudden you're locked into A shot, B shot conversation. Yep. Same thing in like Oblivion.
But your responses, thankfully, are also very well thought out.
Yes,
when you answer them. Yep. Yeah.
So there's that, and also just the like, I can't, every time I'm back in Night City, I'm just like, and it's still hard for me to believe how dense the city is, and it feels like every building is there. It feels like every building has like, if it's a 30-story building, just the way that the alleyways work and the way that the game looks, it feels like all 30 stories are actually there.
And it's very interesting because you do have to load up when you go into like an elevator, but if you're on like a balcony, you can look over and just like, oh, I can just jump off, and then you can jump, and it's fine, you know.
Yeah, so
that's nice.
But the parade level is going to be cool, because did you scout it out already?
Yeah, I did the scouting.
Yeah, because it takes place in that, there's like the two buildings that are and there's like bridges.
Yeah, that going between each of them.
Yeah, so that whole area is neat. And then when the parade goes through it and you're doing your mission in it, it's going to be really cool. It's a really awesome, it's just a really cool like setup and action scene. It kind of reminds me of like an action movie, because you're like chasing down a float or whatever.
And it is really interesting. Spoiler alert here, and I know it's been years, but the situation with Evelyn was really interesting, because I was under the impression that there was going to be more when I finished that.
Yeah.
And then, like, Lucy calls me, and then it's just like, yeah, she offed herself. Yeah. It's like, sorry to put it like, untactfully, but the conversation you have with Lucy afterwards is just like, oh yes, this makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. And it's actually and it is one of those, if I sit here and reflect on it, it feeds into that thing that I like, when it's just something that's just definite, and it's because that's the world you live in, and there is no like do-overs, there is no like way to fix it. It's just gonna happen. So it's very cool.
I think Cyberpunk does a really good job with that, from what I remember, especially with Jackie.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not just about killing characters off or whatever. It's like killing characters off or having characters die in a meaningful way, and then writing characters reacting to them and loss in a meaningful way. And also like Evelyn, because the city is like a rough, horrible city. So it makes sense within the context of Night City, because she was just another person who, got to a really dark place and they didn't make it out. And it's like, you kind of see that all over the place. And because Cyberpunk is both, there's a little bit of humor in it, but it's also very serious, but you can see the world it's a dystopia, So yeah, I would agree with you that sort of blunt and that sort of abruptness works really well. Okay. Anything else?
No, not video game wise.
So, all right. I finished Expedition 33. I have a lot of mixed feelings on it. I'm excited to see your thoughts once you finish it, because I don't think I liked the ending.
I'll get on it right away.
I think the ending was interesting, but I feel as though, I'll be vague, but I feel like somebody had a cool idea, but the implications of that cool idea weren't fully explored. But they just kind of banked on the cool idea to carry the ending, and that's basically it. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about Expedition 33. I enjoyed the combat. I enjoyed the characters. But like a lot of the optional boss fights, I didn't care about. And it's not because they were too difficult. It's just because I didn't want it. Like a lot
You're
of
pigeonholed into like
it's
a way
dodging
to,
and parrying.
Yeah.
So and every now and then that's fine. And in the game's defense, they're optional bosses. You don't have to defeat a lot of them. The main quest bosses are fantastic. They're actual boss fights where you're managing your health and you have to like think of your attacks carefully and stuff like that. And that's great. So I don't know, maybe you could say because they're optional bosses, the whole thing is that, you know, they're going to do things differently because they're optional. They're not just going to be other bosses. But at the same time, the combat's really good. And so when I finally got to the point where I had a party and their synergies were like built on top of one another, and I was really digging into their abilities and customizing them, when I would run into an optional boss and the optional boss was just, you have to parry it or you have to dodge and you just have to learn it. It's like, I don't know, it feels gimmicky. And I don't know if it's really worth it, because yeah, there's a boss that jumps in the air, hits the ground, and you either dodge or parry, and their jump, sometimes they hover in the air for like a split second longer, so it's you kind of just have to learn it. And I got to the point where I learned how to parry the attack. But the boss has a ton of health, so I was like, okay, so I could sit here and I could parry this guy, and eventually after like an hour I can beat this boss. Do I really want to do that? And it was right at the end of the game, because at the end of the game, your last thing, there's one more chance you have where you can explore the open world before you finish the game. I was like, okay, so I can do this, I can find other bosses, but I don't know, do I really feel like, and I just reached that conclusion, no. Like I didn't feel like, you know, and it's not because it was too difficult. It's not because, I need to grind more and get my stats up or anything like that. It was just because I could sit here and I could dodge or parry this boss for 30 minutes and get whatever you get for defeating it, or I could just move on with my life because it's an optional boss that I really don't need to worry about. So that's what I did, and I went and finished the game, and I was okay with that. So it's stuff like that I have like mixed feelings about. I don't know. I don't know. I just came away sort of done with it, I guess. And the ending really is just, I'm not. The more I think about it, the less I kind of like it. It's a little bit like Warfare. I don't know if you guys have seen Alex Garland's recent movie, Warfare. It's a little like that. I saw Warfare recently, and like the more I think about it, the less I kind of like it. But so yeah, that's Expedition 33. If it wins Game of the Year, that's fine. A lot of people love it. But I don't know. Like, it's kind of tough to talk about some of the things I dislike, because it involves things that happen in the game that you kind of have to see for yourself. But I will say that there's a character that is introduced. You know, I'm not sure if this is a spoiler or not. There's a character that's introduced late in the story, and this character is like the most important character. And when you romance people, you're romancing them with that character. So this makes the romances weird, because this character you meet is kind of mysterious and you don't really know them. But at the same time, you're playing as them. And the characters that you romance, you're romancing with this character. But it's like, well, I don't know who this is. Like, so it's awkward, because I don't know them. The other party members don't know them, but I'm like building a relationship. So I thought it was strange, and it kind of zapped my interest in deeper relationships and romances, as opposed to something like Commander Shepard. You are Commander Shepard, easy. Or Geralt. It's like Geralt has a distinct personality. He has previous games, you know, so it's not this mysterious character. But I guess you'll get there eventually. I also finished Dread Delusion, which, as opposed to Expedition 33, Dread Delusion's ending was excellent. I'm so glad I finished that. It was probably a little bit longer than it needed to be, and there was one too many quests. But power through that. At the end, I was just sprinting by enemies because you don't have to fight them. And I was really happy that I finished it. That Dread Delusion is one of the best written RPGs I've ever played. It's not a very good RPG, I think, from a mechanic combat standpoint.
Mhm.
Like, I built my character based on charm and spellcasting, and at the end, there were still charm challenges where I could like charm to convince somebody to do something. Even though I had gotten 10 in that stat category, so I had maxed that out, I was still failing charm challenges because I guess there's probably equipment out there that I have to find. So I don't know, that kind of disappointed me because I was like, okay, but I have my charm skill maxed out, and that came at the expense of like my strength.
Yeah.
I have no health, and it's like, and I accepted that I accepted that challenge. I accepted that in combat I can take 2 hits before I die, and I'm okay with that because I maximize my charm. That's an RPG. But it's like once you get to that end in Dread Delusion, and it's like, nope, you still got to have an even higher score. And it's just like, man, like I just spent 30 hours maximizing the stat category. I feel like I should be able to reap the rewards of that, you know? It's like once you maximize the stat category in an RPG, you should be able to do should now be crazy powerful. I shouldn't have to put on a robe somewhere so that I can pass, advanced charm challenges or whatever. But other than that, Dread Delusion was excellent. I'm so happy that I finished it, and God, it feels good to finish. There's a scene in Parks and Rec where Ron Swanson fixes a sink, and he's like, God, I love this feeling. And for a second, he just sort of proudly stares into the distance before snapping out of it. And that's exactly like, once I finish a game, it's like, God, I love this feeling. Okay. Like, hell yeah.
On to the next thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And besides that, I'm also playing a new VR game, Arcane Age. I'll talk more about that next week. So far I'm enjoying it greatly, but I've already talked a lot. And then real quick, College Football 25 has me obsessed again, and please pray for me because I don't know when this obsession is going to end, but I've got Death Stranding 2 that I need to keep playing. But it's like every time I'm playing a different game, there's just like there's a little Lee Corso on my shoulder who's like, not so fast, my friend. You got to go play Western Michigan. I'm like, shit, Lee, go away. I'm trying to carry this thing for Sam. I'm trying to carry these vaccines to these people in a mountain somewhere that needs it. And Lee Corso's just like, oh, not so fast, my friend. According to the experts, you're a touchdown underdog. And I'm like, what? Pieces of shit. I'm going to drop 40 on these guys. Anyway, okay. Without further ado, we'll hit the news and get going. Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server. That's one of my fears. And that's a question
Spiders?
that, yes, but of like, if you work in games, what is it like to, to come home and then play games? Because it's like,
because I work on such a bad game,
it
is demoralizing.
To remind yourself what a good game looks like. I'm sorry.
Like the games I enjoy, I'm sitting down like, God damn it, why can't I work on a better game? Why can't I work on a game that I enjoy?
Hey, and now you're gonna have to go into work, and you're gonna have to test whether or not a Boeing can make a sharp turn to evade a bomber. Can that happen? And Microsoft, have you not heard about this?
No.
Yeah, like in North Dakota, there was it wasn't a 747. It was one of the smaller commercial passenger aircraft, and it had to make like a sharp turn because there was a B-52 that was in its path or whatever, and the pilot wasn't warned about it, so apparently that had to pull like a Top Gun and there was a sharp turn, and anyway, sorry. Okay, well,
sick.
Read the news and then I can make aviation jokes.
Well, I'm not on the aircraft teams. So I wouldn't have to do that.
King plans to replace laid-off staff with AI. This is according to mobilegamer.biz, citing multiple anonymous sources. They said they are said to be replaced by tools that they're helping to build. One staffer says HR is targeting employees who are loudly expressing dissatisfaction. I'm going to read straight from the story. And actually, before I read straight from the story, let me get the author here as I open it up. It is by Neil Long, at mobilegamer.biz. Quote, the industry is... Oh, I'm sorry. This is a memo sent to staff as the King layoffs were happening, and mobilegamer.biz acquired the memo. So this is what the memo said. The industry is changing fast and our business has not been growing. When that happens, we must not only look outside at competitors and the market, but also inside. We are making several changes to get the business back to growth. Unlocking many more AI tools is one recent example. Investing more in marketing this year is another. We're fortunate to have many talented individuals at King, but we also have a collective problem. The size and structure of the company often makes it difficult to get things done. So we plan to simplify the organization, fewer layers, fewer overlapping remits, fewer hours spent on alignment, fewer people in meetings, fewer stakeholders for every project. Staff was told that King will present a new organizational chart in September after union negotiations. And this has left a lot of employees sort of in limbo because they don't know their position in the company right now, as they're not laid off, or they may, who knows. And there's going to be a whole new organization thing coming in, a little more than a month. So yeah, it's not great at King. I have a few things to say, but yeah, you off the top, go ahead.
Don't worry, AI is not coming to replace your jobs.
Yeah, that's kind of the fear here.
Mm-hmm.
I think so if the way that AI encroaches into the games industry, and when we're talking AI, we're talking generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yes, AI means a million things, but I think we all kind of understand what we're talking about here. But it's interesting to think about the ways it has encroached. So like right now, it's a lot of indie games that we know. Like one of the most prominent ways I think is indie games, and we've had this discussion where it's like some game that looks cool, small budget, and it has AI voice acting, and it's like, no, take that out. You don't need it. Just give me the text and give me Tom Nook, and it's fine. Like I don't need the AI voice.
As an ultra buff admiral on the cover.
Yeah, or it has artwork that it just doesn't need, or something like that. And so that's one thing. Another is sort of in the mobile space. I would consider mobile audiences, I don't think this is insulting, I think this is just true, as like passive audiences. And that's fine. Because I don't think people, when they play Candy Crush, are sitting down and hyper focused on something the way that when we sit down to play a game, we're hyper focused on Cyberpunk or whatever.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that we don't passively enjoy media. Lots of people passively scroll social media.
Sure.
Lots of people throw on a Star Trek episode and they just watch it without really thinking about it all that much, and that's fine. So it's like, I think we sort of passively consume media all the time as a safety blanket, or as something to help us calm down or whatever, or to, like a glass of wine at the end of the day, only, it's Picard and Data or something, So with mobile games, I think you get a little bit of that. Of course, the thing is, it fills out these spots during the day when, you're at work, or you're on the way to work, whether it's public transportation or in traffic or something like that, or you're using the bathroom,
Yeah.
or you're waiting to fall asleep, So these little tiny moments that are like, those moments are going to be even more susceptible to like passive audiences, because you're not even in an environment that requires like real attention. You're just in kill time mode, right? So it's like you're not even wanting something to really focus on. And I think in that environment, that is a particularly susceptible place for generative AI and AI tools, because now you can be fed slop and you can be given just bullshit because you're already sort of experiencing bullshit. Now, again, I don't necessarily think it's wrong to have a glass of wine at the end of the night. I don't think it's wrong to throw on a TV show and just sort of zone out watching it. Zone out watching an old episode of IT Crowd or something like that and not think about it a whole bunch. You know, it's not like, I don't think human beings are wired in such a way where every time you consume media, you have to study it and analyze it. But I think maybe what makes this a little bit more insidious is also the entire mobile game business. One, you can think about those things if you decide to. Mobile gaming, you really can't. And two, the entire business is built around extracting revenue, right? It's sort of wedging itself into your life in such a way that it eats up your time, or it eats up the time that you have nothing to do, quote unquote, and it eats up some of that money, right? Which you may not be spending otherwise. And so I think that's a different context for generative AI, because now it's like, yeah, and if this is true, now it's like people aren't even getting paid for the thing that is now being slopped up on your iPhone in front of you, right? And that's particularly worrying. And yeah, you know, if I don't know, if I am The Verge, if I'm, I think Nilay Patel or I don't know, or Tom Warren at The Verge, and I get a chance to interview Phil Spencer, I think this is something that I would ask him. I'd say, hey, what the hell is going on here? Why you're head of Xbox gaming? I don't know if King is technically under the Xbox banner, if that's Microsoft. But in any case, he still works for Microsoft. He's still a high-level executive, so I think it's still a relevant question. But I feel like, you know, what do you have to say about this? What do you have to say about your game business? This looks pretty bad. Yeah, and I think that's a question that is more than acceptable. Richard, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, I was just gonna like lament the fact that like the, of course, the writing was on the wall when Microsoft fired all those people, and then like the next day they put up an AI created image, you know, to say that they're hiring, you know, which is very ironic. But yeah, the I'm gonna say Android the mobile market is pretty much made up of the entirety of people who played Farmville on like Facebook back in the day, and Farmville itself was the start of passive gaming. Just you know, wait till the time runs out, click a couple things, go on, do the next thing. And since then, it's only got worse. If you look at some of the top games on mobile sites, they're idle games. They're games you don't need to play. You just start it up, do a couple things, and then just like let it play for you, and then reap the rewards. So yes, because you don't have to pay. It's exactly as you said. Because you don't have to pay attention to those things, AI is easier to just insert. But a large majority of the people, a large majority of the money come from those people. Yeah. Which in turn makes it okay.
Sort of further reinforces it.
So yes, so that is the first step for that generative AI to seep its way into the larger, more hardcore market, because it's just you let it happen, and now the ball is rolling. So we don't know how to stop it.
Because I think I would make the argument that the economics of mobile games, right, which Apple started the App Store in 2007.
Yeah,
I'm not sure of
at the start there were a good experience too.
Yes, because like it was Blade, you could put games on your phone.
Yeah,
you know, Monument Valley. There's like other examples, but of course, eventually somebody discovered the black arts of microtransactions on a mobile phone. And it sort of went from there. But the thing is, like, the economics of, I think, mobile gaming as we know them today, I don't know if they necessarily started with mobile gaming. I think you could look at WoW as having sort of a similar structure going back further. But even then, the point I'm trying to get to here that I think you were making is that mobile gaming, the economics of mobile gaming have been the games industry, the like AAA games industry has for a long time attempted to recreate that in AAA games, right? So we call it different words. We call it live service. We call it retention, whatever. But like, I think the past 15 years of video games, one of the largest changes in gaming can be boiled down to Ubisoft wants Assassin's Creed to make Candy Crush or Clash of Clans numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, they are two completely different experiences on different mediums, phones versus TV, console, PC gaming.
Right.
But that doesn't really matter to Ubisoft executives because they just want a line to go up.
Mm-hmm.
So that contradiction, it's hammering a square peg in a round hole type thing, right?
Yep.
Or changing the business or changing their manipulating their IPs so that they kind of resemble sort of mobile economics or whatever. And it has gotten to the point now where it's ubiquitous, right? I think sort of mobile economics are ubiquitous in wider gaming, and I don't think that's all totally a good thing. I think with generative AI, it's similar. And I don't think it's panicky. I think what happens is you have casual audiences, passive audiences, who are less discerning and more susceptible to this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's an insult. If you're somebody who just plays Clash of Clans on your phone every now and then, and
right.
you have no idea what a God of War is, you've never owned a PlayStation, you're just somebody who's like, hey, I tried it out, and it fills up time when I'm on the bus. It's
sure.
like that. They're not a bad person. They're just somebody who's killing time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the fact of the matter is that they are a prime target for this AI slop stuff. And I think if it's successful in those audiences and in those markets, it would have to inevitably move to wider audiences, because if it saves money, then all those people that see it saving money in the mobile market and maybe creating growth, there's no way they're not going to look at console gaming or PC gaming and go, can we do that more over here too?
Mm-hmm.
Of course they will. So just like Oblivion's horse armor, where it started, we all laughed at it. Now here we are. I feel like, it's like we scoff at King for doing this, or, every now and then a game just, some executive says some dumb bullshit about generative AI and they get dogpiled or whatever. But in 10 years... when a generation of kids that grew up having ads shoved into their eyeballs by Roblox,
this is normal.
When they grow up in that environment and they grow up and generative AI is just a part of the world as opposed to this new thing that is nuanced and complicated. Yeah. Are they going to be more accepting of that? Are they going to be less discerning of that because it's just a bullshit thing that they grew up with? And that's sort of the fear. And that's, and I don't think that's sky is falling fear-mongering. I think that's just the way it is. It's something that's shitty and people want to save money with it, and it's as simple as that. And and if they can, they're gonna try.
Yep.
And so I don't know how to fight against that. For workers, I think no. Yes, but no. I think for workers, unions help. Unions aren't a cure-all. You can still get fired if you're in a union. Unions don't, force companies to keep you working, but they can protect you in one way or another. So, that's one way. But for the consumer, for, people that play games, there's kind of nothing you can do against just the tide of bullshit and money making. So, yeah. Are you ready to...
Let's go.
Okay. New Steam rules are banning adult content. Okay, so there's this is a story that I don't know. For a bit today, I was like, can we just skip this? Because I don't know if I want to talk about, because there's a couple twisted turns here. Okay, so a recent addition to Valve's rules for what can be published on Steam says this. Quote, content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks, or internet network providers, in particular, certain kinds of adult-only content. It's vague, but PC Gamer's Joshua Woolens connected some dots and found that the rules may be directly in response to like games with incest themes and stuff like that. But Valve has yet to clarify or be more specific about what specifically the rule is against or what the rule is alluding to. PC Gamer eventually got a statement from Valve which confirmed that credit card companies, specifically MasterCard, pressure Valve to do so. Valve said in their statement, quote, we were recently notified that certain games on Steam may violate the rules and standards set forth by our payment processors and their related card networks and banks. As a result, we are retiring those games from being sold on the Steam store. Okay, now here's where things start to get social media-y and strange and long. So Vice reported in an article that has now been taken down, but not for journalistic reasons, so who knows, that an Australian anti-porn feminist group called Collective Shout claimed responsibility for the change in Steam's rules. According to PC Gamer, Collective Shout describes itself as a grassroots campaigning movement against the objectification of women and sexualization of girls in media, advertising, and popular culture. Which sounds, I think, pretty good. I don't think that sounds insane. But Vice's reporting shows that the organization at one point retweeted a famous TERF, so famous bigot, anti-trans bigot. So what kind of feminists are these? Are they TERFs? Are they a sincere feminist? Is it a mix? I don't know. This is an Australian organization that I've never heard of. So yeah. Okay, do we have any top-level thoughts on any of this? Because I have a few, but
it was like less than a decade ago since they started allowing more adult content
right.
on Steam. That's interesting pivot.
So I think for one, Steam is a very libertarian place.
Yeah.
Because Gabe Newell, I think, is a very libertarian dude. And so I feel like Steam, as hands-off as they can be, that's where they want to be. They don't want to make any judgments. Unless it's apparently talking smack about The Sopranos, which I still can't believe that Gabe Newell doesn't like you cannot like The Sopranos, but don't tell me it's a bad show. That's just objectively not true. But what are you doing, eh? And okay, sorry. So ain't nothing, Tone. But
Woke
Steam
up this morning, got some gabagool.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry, shit.
So I feel like there are two conversations here.
That's the problem I was having with like trying to start talking, because we're going to get into that very quickly.
So there's like the free speech conversation, right? It's like what should be sold in a democracy, what should be illegal for us as speech, and when you're a private owner of a storefront, what do you allow on your storefront? Do you allow hate speech in the country that you live in? Personally, I think yes, for various reasons. But do you force companies to allow hate speech on their storefronts? That's where I say no. Private companies don't need to do that, right? And that's been a conversation with like Twitter and YouTube, is these places are huge. They're the quote unquote public square, which I think is a cheesy thing. That's not totally true. So if they are so big, should they be considered under the laws of the First Amendment and not like private companies that can sort of regulate and dictate content and speech themselves, right? And that's been a huge thing with the internet. So that's conversation number one. Conversation number two is, how did credit card companies come to this decision, and who is influencing those decisions?
Right, yes.
And we learned who that was. And so now the conversation is like, okay, well, what is this group? What are their wider beliefs? Because, I would agree with that simple statement about, being against the objectification of women and girls. That sounds good. But what does that mean? And then furthermore, I think, when you looked at some of the things that the group retweeted, that raises red flags for me, because you can, it doesn't take long to find a United States senator who would include gay people in obscenities or trans people.
Exactly. Right.
So that's the problem, is who's doing the influencing, who's doing the decision making, and what is their rationale behind that, and is there any bigotry or anything like that? Now, I don't know necessarily if there's any bigotry behind here. I don't know enough about the group. I wasn't going to look them up and read through all their opinions to understand if I agree with them on anything or whatever. But yeah, Valve, I think, is in a position where for them, it's not like they're losing out on a ton of money. And I think, I don't know, I feel like maybe this is something where the less coverage Valve gets, it's sort of fine with that. Because I think it's making a lot of money. Valve's super rich. I don't think Valve was doing anything super untoward or anything like that, obviously. But because of who they are as a video game seller, and because they are considered sort of a tech company, right? I think the crosshairs may be on them in a way. Like, because, you know, much in the way that the crosshairs are, maybe I shouldn't use the word crosshairs. The sort of political anger is being directed at Meta or Amazon for different reasons. You know, if you talk to the Republican Party, it's because they censor Alex Jones or something stupid. If you talk to Bernie Sanders, it's because they don't pay people. You know, so and that's when, you know, one that's actually, they don't pay people and they monopolize things and they, you know, lobby Congress to, you know, that's the kind of thing that's like true. And so so big tech is sort of under pressure because of, you know, they may be broken up. There's regulation. Valve's in this weird spot where it's a super powerful, super rich tech company, super influential tech company. But because nobody plays video games, nobody like thinks about them. So they are like one of the biggest social media sites in existence, but nobody's heard of them on Capitol Hill because everybody on Capitol Hill outside of AOC is a million years old, including Bernie Sanders. It doesn't know how to use a computer, and so they don't know what Valve is anyway, right? Outside of, they know how to use Facebook, but other than that.
Hey, Tim Waltz did a stream and played Dreamcast, okay? So.
Okay, I'm sorry. Besides AOC, but Tim Waltz is also a million years old, so all I'm saying is all these people are a million years old.
He's a cool million years old. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so that sort of matches with Valve's hands-off approach, because if you take stands, if you make waves, people get mad. They may react to the thing that you did, and now all of a sudden you're in some kind of fight or in some kind of argument, right? And so I think Valve would much rather be do whatever you want, but please just don't look our direction. And I think that's sort of the company's ideology as a company, even though like obviously that's not everyone who works there, that's not their ideology.
Yeah.
I think that's clear. But yeah, I don't know. When it comes to like what you should put on your storefront, there was a couple of years ago that there was that rape fantasy that was on Steam that went viral. And yeah, like personally, I wouldn't allow stuff like that onto Steam. I wouldn't allow hate speech. But again, that stuff is complicated because you have to parse what is hate speech and what isn't. If you owned a video rental site and you would have to make a decision, do you put Birth of a Nation up there? Birth of a Nation is this like important movie in the history of
filmmaking,
in the history of America, but it is a super racist, like horrible thing. If you owned a library, do you put the Turner Diaries in there, even though it's just a white supremacist, like fantasy, garbage fantasy? You know, is that your job? That's a complicated discussion. And I think, again, because Valve wants hands-off neutrality with everything, they kind of, you know, they say no hate speech and stuff like that, but they'd rather not, I don't know. I feel like they'd rather not handle with those sort of ideas. And if they get in trouble, they'll just curtail it. And partially because this was a couple hundred games. So maybe a big deal to the people that made them, sure. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm going to assume that even when the games were taken down, there was still, Steam ended the day with more games on its platform than it started.
You know? Sure, yeah.
So it's like, it's not like Valve was losing a ton of money from this.
Something Hail Hydra.
Right, yeah. So I don't know. Is this the right move? Maybe. I don't know the games. I'm obviously, if like I personally, I would cross the line at, you know, rape fantasies, things to do with children, obviously things to do with real people, which is also where Valve crosses the line.
Yeah.
Hate speech when it comes to my own like if I owned a storefront. Yes, but again, the people that are pressuring credit card companies to do this, I don't know what's actually in their hearts. I don't know if they are actually just out to stop the objectification of women or if they are also TERFs, because if they are, that complicates the equation somewhat. Because yeah, like again, you know, if a senator is like, we got to protect children, it's like, okay, cool, and then the next sentence it's protect children so we can cut Medicaid so they don't have healthcare. It's like, all right, well, yeah, you're bullshitting. Anyway, I'm sorry. Did you look like you may have?
Yeah, I want to try to say something, but it's like I guess I don't know where to start. The biggest worry, of course, is when is it going to be time to decide what's what, like on the storefront, you know? Much like in '93 when they had the hearings regarding violence in video games and stuff like that, it was like, you know, look at this game Night Trap, where women are brutally murdered and raped, and none of that happened in the game. But it's like, you just said it did, and there we go. We got to shut it down. So it's when does it get a little too dangerous? I am in agreement with, like, yes, there are lines that need to be like crossed with like a lot of things. We as a society have decided by and large what is acceptable and what's not. I mean, a lot of times it's wrong, but you know, like no, that's not a good point. But I mean, we can all agree that, like, yeah, incestuous stuff and you know, rape fantasies and stuff, like, no, I don't want any of that crap on there. I don't want any of the racist crap. Even the stupid stuff that's like, you know, Hitler versus hentai or whatever, like on it. It's just like, okay,
dumb memes or
right?
whatever.
Yeah, sure, it may be dumb memes, but that you're making it okay.
Yeah,
And in a certain you know, light, and it's like, yeah, like, why should we allow this? But it's very strange to me that Visa, MasterCard, the merchant companies, their goal is to obtain money.
Yeah, and they don't give a shit, like, ideologically.
So how does this group here
yeah, that's the thing that doesn't make
influence
sense.
these guys to be like, no, I don't want your money? Like, I understand there's like morality issues, like connecting into huge web, but it's like a story I tell all the time that happen in the stores. It's like this lady wanted to buy a sealed copy of Pac-Man on the NES, never been opened for however long because she couldn't find a copy. And it's like, I don't really want you to, but you're giving me the money. So, and it's like, yeah, I get the money, but they also get the money. So they just effectively cut off like a revenue. How is that beneficial to what they exist for? It's very, very strange.
Yeah, and like they tried to get, I'm not sure if it was successful or not, but they tried to get GTA 5 banned. And again,
they always do.
And that's the thing. Like you brought up with games in the 90s. Like another conversation to have is the effect of media. You know, and this, I don't know, man. We've been having this conversation for a million years.
Yeah,
and we're gonna have it for another million years.
Never stop.
It's like if you watch a movie about a serial killer, it's not going to turn you into a serial killer. Now, that doesn't mean that movies that portray certain types of people certain ways aren't problematic or that it's not an issue or anything like that. But it is more complicated than just this game has something bad in it, therefore it is bad. Right? So I don't know. We're getting into like free speech and the existence of media itself.
Yeah.
which and again, this is a conversation that Valve has to have, and I think they try to avoid it. The difference between us and Valve is we are three people on a podcast. Valve is a multi-billion-dollar company and the biggest storefront for games on PC.
Yeah.
And maybe the biggest storefront, like maybe the most active storefront in the world, even considering consoles and Switch. Maybe, I don't know. Like those PlayStation and Xbox and Switch don't have social media like functions, you know? Or I guess they kind of do. But not like forums and, you know, all kinds of things like Steam has. So, I mean, when you're that, you get a new level of accountability and a new level of responsibility. So yeah. I think I've kind of said everything I wanted to say with this because I don't know. I don't want to go off on, I don't want to lose track of like trying to stay focused. Connor, did you have?
I know of a way that everyone wins in this.
What's that?
So, okay. So Steam Cash exists.
Yeah, the gift cards. Yeah.
So the way that Steam gets to keep its libertarian views and the credit card companies get to be like, hey, we're not making those purchases, is every purchase doesn't purchase the title of the game, equivalent value of Steam Cash, which then is transferred for the game.
Yeah.
But okay,
it's like,
but I think that's
it's
just
like
a
offhand.
No, it is.
To
It
second
is.
But I think,
degrees,
I think to them, their issue is not just the transaction itself; it is the existence.
Well, I think MasterCard is wanting to not be associated with those transactions. But if they're not associated with those transactions are happening secondarily after the transaction they made occurs, then they're not associated with it.
I think. So then you're just bypass. Okay, I think
no, but it's dumb. It does happen. That is how some like video game marketplaces work, and that's how you get
like around regulation, different countries.
Yeah.
I understand that. I guess if it's true that this happened, it doesn't matter. You know what? I think we should do? I think we should make an island, and we fly people out there on an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Clinton. I don't know, Trump, definitely.
With a certain New York financier.
Yeah, sure. And on this island, it's just a giant LAN party all the time. It's CSGO, it's Dota. Sorry, this is an inappropriate, stupid. All right, moving on.
Also the ad.
And are unreasonable investor expectations to blame for the industry being shitty right now?
Why is this a story? Yes.
Well, get ready for egg to enter your face, Richard, because
unluckily for them, I like egg.
So bring it on. I like it over easy. Thank you very much.
But egg on your face, not egg in your face.
Well, I was delivering it to be eaten, so.
Oh, so Richard's
is the
right.
mouth in your face? I would say the mouth is in your face.
Is it hard boiled?
Right? How do you like
it would
your
hurt
eggs?
at first.
But the saying is egg on your face. So if you're delivering it to Richard's mouth, then you're confirming that he's right because he doesn't have egg on his face.
But I wasn't delivering it to Richard's
enjoying a
mouth.
delicious eggy treat.
I was giving Richard a coupon for an egg, for which he was going to exchange with me for an egg. No money was processed.
Sweet.
And MasterCard is happy.
Yeah, MasterCard's fine. And anyway, okay. A story by game developers Bryant Francis on data from the site's recent Game Developer Collective Survey, which is jointly run with Omdia, a market research firm. When asked about the economic state of the games industry and the main cause of bad market conditions, 64% of respondents said unreasonable investor expectations were the cause, and 60% ranked mismanagement as a close second. Too high development costs were third at 43%. Francis reached out to a few studio founders and investors to get their thoughts, and some disagreed. Midsummer founder / CEO Jake Sullivan said, quote, "I'm not sure that's fair. The venture capital model is built upon significant return on the VC investment. When a VC funds our studio, they don't have any expectation of sharing in revenue. They don't set milestones. They don't dictate day-to-day operations, and they even pay the entirety of the agreed upon funding up front. It's a great deal for developers. But any company founded by VC knows the deal. You are expected not just to make a great game, but a transformational one." End quote. Griffin Gaming partner Jason De La Roca, another partner of Griffin Gaming, is Sarah Bond, who I think, if I check my watch, just laid off more people. So congratulations to Griffin Gaming. Also disagreed, saying that the complete reverse was true. It is the market conditions that are driving investor expectations. Developers need to wake up and adapt to the new reality that they can no longer be in the game-making business. They need to embrace being in the fan-building business and understand that studio value and sustainability comes from identifying a specific audience / player base and feeding them great games. Okay, so I would agree with Jason De La Roca. You get a couple like big panels of plastic. You put that on something that turns, and you just make those fans. That's a stupid joke. I'm sorry.
I'm going to completely disregard anything that Jake Solomon said from Midsummer because they haven't even released a game yet. So
have they not?
Nope. I'm on their website, and there's literally nothing about any games.
I wonder when.
I think they were created last year. I'm being silly, but they were created last year. They were former devs from Firaxis and EA.
Yeah, that's right.
They were former developers of XCOM and The Sims.
Yeah,
but even then, when was the last XCOM? When was the last Sims? Come on, man.
and that's their
both failures.
Jeez, one of many studios that was founded, I think, with VC money.
Yeah.
Because like 5 years ago, everybody left Blizzard.
Yeah.
There was like 12 people left at Blizzard, and everybody else went and founded 1,000 different studios, and they were all going to make free-to-play survival games. So like, except for Mike Morhaime, who made Gloomhaven, except co-op, which is actually really good. I've played
Gloomhaven's good
Thunderfolk.
though. Yeah.
In any case, okay, so these people know way more about the games industry
They sure do.
than I'm ever going to know, right? They work in it. They're old, like they have forgotten more than I'm ever going to know. But I found these quotes interesting, and I also don't know how harshly I want to judge some of them because I don't know. Bryant Fancies reaches out, "Hey, you have something to say about this?" And you think for a second, yeah, I'll say this," and then you move on with your day. And then maybe later on, you're in the shower and you're like, "Oh, I should have said that. What I said wasn't great."
He's gonna write an op on me, damn it.
Who knows? But I think so. One with the VC thing, I think okay. Is that not a problem in and of itself?
Yes.
Right?
I would
Because
say so.
you ended your quote saying, "Not just make a great game, but a transformational one." Okay, if VC money comes with the implicit expectation that you need to make a transformational game,
Yes, you're already on the wrong foot.
is
Yeah.
that not unrealistic expectations? Now, you may say, but Tyler, that is the default expectation of a VC. Then my response is, then VCs need to get out of gaming. We need to figure something else out. Or they need to understand that they're just going to destroy more things than they're going to create by thinking that. Because it is two things that do not fit, right? Because not every game can be transformational. So if that's the case, then this is totally untrue, right? So if I am a venture capitalist or someone else, and I'm looking to invest in a studio, and I want the studio to make me the next fucking Dota or something, maybe I need to look inward and consider, how about instead of giving a studio $50 million to make the next Dota, I give 50 studios $1 million or something like that. And I'm not the first person to have suggested this idea, right? After Balatro came out, Balatro came out. Thank you, Richard.
It's Italian.
Balatro came out. Everybody played it. It's the greatest game ever made. It's the only game anybody plays ever now. And we saw these reports at GDC. I think it was like GDC, that they were like dudes walking around probably in sweater vests and quoting The Big Short. And they were like, "Yeah, I'm trying to find the next Balatro." And I was like, okay, the problem is...
No, they said Balatro.
Yeah,
the next Magic card game. I never played it, but the kids like it. So so part of the issue is like, for one, you don't need to find the next one. What you need to find is
Jesus,
the next good game, or Jesus. At this point,
Both.
You need to find the next good game.
Jesus game.
he's
right?
great at hide and seek.
Because no one was looking for Balatro the year before it came out, right?
Yeah.
Right.
No one was thinking about it. And if you had pitched Balatro, would people have thrown a ton of money at you? Probably not. Even though the idea was clearly worth some kind of money, right? So it's like, I don't know. What frustrates me is it's like I don't see what that is except for bad expectations. Battlefield, Ars Technica reported that Battlefield that EA wants Battlefield to be a 100 million player game. What is
No way.
beside bad expectations? What has EA done with BioWare besides mismanaging it and trying to turn it into a live service thing? Because EA either wants games that cost nothing and make a little bit back, or games that cost the Eastern fucking hemisphere and bring back Mars. And if it doesn't do that, they lay everybody off.
And we can't forget the surefire hits that Star Wars should be every single goddamn time.
So
and it isn't.
There's that. What has Microsoft done? Cut a bunch of studios.
Squandered every chance.
Was Tango Gameworks, were they not a viable company, or were they just not a part of Microsoft's quote unquote growth? And what is growth except expectations for making more money in the future, right? And I don't know. I feel like I see unreasonable expectations everywhere. Like Ubisoft making fewer games, and every game has to be a gigantic hit. Thank God Assassin's Creed Shadows sold well, because if it hadn't, who knows what would have happened? We would have had even more layoffs, right? And what happened before Assassin's Creed Shadowland? X-Defiant, and X-Defiant was going to take on Call of Duty. And it's like, no, you didn't. Nobody told you to make X-Defiant. Nobody said you had to make something to take on Call of Duty, Ubisoft. Nobody said that. But you've got a bunch of fucking investors who have to have their bottoms powdered after you got done changing them at the changing station. And now you have to get in a little bottle. Oh, don't worry, we're going to fucking compete with Call of Duty. Don't worry. It's going to be amazing. And then because that doesn't work out, now you have to pivot and figure something else out when the whole time, maybe you just don't go there to begin with. So it's like, what is that except for unreasonable expectations? Why did Rocksteady go from making really good single player games for a decade to a decade of not making a game and releasing a mid-tier to bad looter shooter? Why did that happen? Who was in the decision-making process that decided, hey, the studio that makes really good single player games, let's do a live service thing with them? Is that not because people saw the money of live service games and decided we should set the expectation of making live service money? So we're going to set studios to do that. Bad fucking idea, and it crashed. And now where we are with Rocksteady. Is that not just stupid fucking expectations by out-of-touch executives? So I don't know, man. It just, I feel like if we're having a conversation like this, and again, I don't know what context these guys are talking about, because maybe they would agree with everything. They're like, no, I'm talking about like this level of gaming. I'm talking about like indie gaming. And it's like, okay, maybe you're true. Maybe you're right. I don't know. But I feel like if you're talking about the games industry and you're talking about investor expectations, and you're going to say that it has nothing to do with investor expectations, you have to address everything that I just brought up before you tell me that it has nothing to do with investor expectations, you know? And now fucking PlayStation starting 10 games that were going to be live service. Are any of them going to release now? Who knows?
They aren't, but that one I fully blame Jim Ryan.
Well, that might be true. Maybe get Jim Ryan's quote in here. He's like, well, we couldn't do things because of the kids.
People don't like to play old games.
The other thing is Jason De La Roca is like a famous investor guy, and he's
an investor, bro.
Been in the games industry for a super long time. Honestly, don't know if he's been a developer or if he's just been like working at a publisher. I don't know his history all that well. But again, it's like developers need to wake up and adapt to the new reality that they can no longer just be in the game making business. Okay, so
if I can interrupt. Before that, just his statement with it's the market conditions that are driving investor expectation. You're working backwards. Because you're trying to sell bikinis during December. Were bikinis selling during the summer? Absolutely. Now investors want to make that money. Well, that time has passed. It's time to try and not copy what was making money, but figure out what's the next step of making money. And if investors are just pointing at the past and be like, but we want that, well, tell them to shut up, because that's past. It is done. Somebody already capitalized on that.
I think that's one correct way of looking at it. I think another is, a bunch of sucky games were made that way. So maybe you should just, even if it's not going to work economically, maybe you just shouldn't do that, because it's also just going to make shitty games. I think that's another take. But also, like, I don't know. If the market conditions are driving investor expectations, investors are human beings. They're not robots, right? Can't they look at the market and say it would be smarter to make smarter, smaller investments that create more sustainable companies, right? Investors are not babies, despite all my stupid jokes. So they can. It was just like this is the same thing with the pandemic bubble, right? And it's like at the height of the pandemic bubble, Meta hiring all these fucking people, and it's like, oh, games are oh my god, it's amazing, it's a Christmas fucking miracle. Let's just hire 10,000 people. And everybody was like, okay, but this bubble is not going to last. It's not gonna. And then it didn't last, and then a bunch of people got laid off. And Mark Zuckerberg's like, well, we thought
we just couldn't see this company.
Who fucking knew this was going to happen? And it's just like, all right, are you guys morons? Or are you adults that have foresight? Now, I think it's a little bit of both. I think on one end, it's they knew they could make a bunch of money, they could scale, hire people,
Mm-hmm.
and they could just cut that. It's like they take on, it's a little like they took on a loan to make a bunch more money, and paying off the loan was just layoffs 3 years down the road. And I think they knew that was going to happen. At the same time, I do think there was like, I do think there were people that really thought, oh, games are just this popular now. It's amazing, and really had the expectation that things were just going that direction.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably a little bit of both. But just like that, it's like, okay, if I'm an investor and it's my job to look at the industry, I don't know, man. I understand the context of Helldivers 2. I understand that you can't just fucking replicate that, because that Helldivers 2 is Helldivers 2 for a numerous reasons, not because it's live service. If anything, it's good despite it being live service. Like, so you can't just replicate that. You can't just replicate Marvel Rivals, right? Why is it that Marvel Rivals succeeded but Concord didn't, even though they are similar? One's a hero shooter, they're both hero shooters. So it's like, why did one succeed, one didn't? Well, there's a million reasons. If you're an investor that studies the market, you should know this thing. You should be a human being who understands the nuance. And then, yeah, you should set your expectations according to that, which would be bring those things down and invest more intelligently and build something sustainable. I don't know. Maybe like, I'm naive. I'm ignorant of a lot. There's lots of stuff I don't know that I don't know, I'm sure. But to me, it seems so callous after everything that's happened during the encroachment of AI, when SAG-AFTRA just went through a really long strike because they're trying to protect their fucking jobs from AI. After Microsoft cutting 10,000, I think it's up to 15,000 people across its company, not all games, but across its company, lots of people from games, to look at that landscape and go, well, you know what, developers, you just need to understand that you just can't be in the game making business. And so it's their fault now. It's the developer's fault of not adapting to some bullshit market where the target's moving, and where fucking investors and executives are sort of on to the next thing and they don't know where they're going. Like, Andrew Wilson does not have a plan, right? Like, he doesn't.
No.
Like, he's not a genius, right? The wind takes him in certain directions and he just chases after it. And he's good at that, I guess.
Played a lot of Ghost of Tsushima.
Yes. He plays it in real life. He plays a little flute, but instead of like playing a relaxing, song, he like summons demons that like take him in the direction of the next, of like a 15-year-old somewhere in Essex that's spending $15,000 on FIFA loot packs, and he's like, oh, look at this kid, look at this fucking moron over here, So it's like these guys they're not summoning things, they're not summoning the currents of the ocean as much as they are, Leif Erikson getting fucking lost and the current takes him, somewhere. I don't know. So I feel like with everything going on, I just don't see how you can point the finger at developers and be like, you need to learn. It's like, really? After all these layoffs, after the encroachment of AI, after it's developers that have to understand this is how the world is, and maybe not the people that have all the money bags and are like saying, we want this much. I remember last year, Danny O'Dwyer. So NoClip, I don't know if you guys watch NoClip a lot. I watch some of their stuff. It's really fucking good. NoClip is making a game, and part of the reason that Danny O'Dwyer has documented the development of this game, and part of the reason they're doing it is because he wanted to put his money where his mouth was, and he's like, I'm gonna try making a game, and I'm gonna make it this like transparent thing where you see every step of the way from our development to us looking for funding, so that and I know what it's like to actually make a game, not just like literally code it, but also get funding for it, whatever. And he had a fascinating video last year about pitching investments and trying to get publishers to publish his game. And he had an incredibly frustrating time with some publishers where they would go back and forth. They would have a discussion. Hey, do you want to publish? They would start like discussing how things would work out, and then they would just get ghosted. They wouldn't hear back from a publisher ever again. he talked about like Devolver Digital. When they reached out to Devolver Digital just said no, and he was like, I respect that. They can't do it. Not personal. They just don't have space for it on the schedule. Whatever. Devolver says no. You move on with your life. It's like you can't force publishers to publish your game. But there was a part in the video, which if you guys haven't seen, you really should, where they talk about their pitch deck, right? Which is like the presentation that they show investors. Here's our game, here's our plans, whatever. Or not investors, but publishers, I guess. Which publishers and publishers and VCs are different things, but they
inhabit a similar space.
They inhabit a similar space, yeah. So he showed this pitch deck, and he talked about how they had to have different versions of the pitch deck for different publishers because they knew they were going to get live service questions from certain publishers. And it's like, okay, if those publishers, if they are asking, and Daniel O'Dwyer's game is this fun little stock car racing game, right? With physics heavy, it's very silly. Like, it's like a LAN party, hang out with people game. It's not something that you would consider, oh, well, this has got 10 years of, fucking development ready to go. So it's like a small indie fun stock car driving game, whatever. So if I'm a publisher and if I saw Danny O'Dwyer's game and I thought to myself, hey, what kind of live service shit do you have? I feel like I'm the problem, because if I look at that game and I'm just trying to tack on live service shit to it, all I'm doing is chasing trends and setting unreasonable expectations. What I'm not doing is trying to sustain and build an industry where we can make money sustainably, right? So I feel like that's a good example is, I don't know, if publishers or VC firms are out there and all they want is hits and all they want is live service money or whatever, aren't they the ones that are setting the expectation? I don't know, man. It's nuanced. And yeah, that doesn't mean that developers shouldn't look for markets that, that could have growth and find that out, right? Phasmophobia came out. It was a co-op horror game. Everybody was like, oh my God, co-op horror. And there's this brand new genre. And so a couple of years after that, you had Lethal Company, right? Which was co-op horror with sort of a comedic tinge. And now you have Peak, which is not really horror, but co-op climbing. And so it's like a similar genre. So there's innovation. There is, hey, we have an idea for this really popular genre. Like I'm not saying developers can't do that and they should only be driven by their creative, decision making. But at the same time, it's just like, I just don't see how you point the finger at them and go, you need to learn that this is the industry now. And your game that is about cars, little funny stock cars racing, it needs to compete with Call of Duty. So
I can tell you why you would come to that conclusion. It's because you like how a heel tastes, and when you lick it, they give you money.
Well, that may be true. That's also why I'm banned from Steam. Just kidding.
Same.
Okay. Sorry. Is there anything? Sorry, I went on a bit of a rant there. Is there anything? No. Connor?
No.
Ready for tidbits?
Yeah.
All right. What if I told you in this world there are bits and there are tids, and Richard is the only man who can put them together into tidbits? I gotta email Anthony Fantana. He's the only person that knows how to put an explosion in his video. Not good. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course I know Fantana.
Okay. I know Fantana, okay? I watch him every day. Yeah.
Moon Studios' Thomas Mahler, who co-directed Ori and the Blind Forest and directed its sequel, Will of the Wisps, answered a question on Discord about the possibility of console releases. Mahler stated that given certain market circumstances, we may only release on PS5 and Nintendo Switch 2. For the time being, we'll have to discuss things with Microsoft to see what makes sense for Xbox.
I wonder, I would love to know more details, like why.
My first thought is that Microsoft is Game Pass or nothing. Like Game Pass or don't put it on our console at all. That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, that could make sense. That would be weird because then you're just losing out on, because Game Pass, I would imagine you have to pay for. Like if you're Microsoft and a game gets put on your storefront, you are sinking more money into it by putting it on Game Pass, I would assume. I don't know. And but I also know that the game that they're making, I don't know how technically challenging it is, but I know one of the big troubles is that the S and the X have to be like on par or whatever.
Yeah, or at least releasable.
But I don't know the game that they're working on right now. I don't know how like demanding it is, or if it's something that
I think it runs on Steam Deck. I don't know if it's verified, but verified doesn't necessarily mean it plays well.
Yeah.
So
there have been a couple games that over the past like 5 years, like Black Myth Wukong had like issues with Xbox, where it's just like people have just had weird times with the Xbox, and whether it's due to the console, the
parity.
two consoles, the lack of parity, and like Xbox's priorities or whatever. Like for a while, I think Baldur's Gate 3, they allowed it to release for the X but not for the S for a while. I don't remember that.
I think their release in general is delayed because it came out on PS5 first for a bit, and then and then they announced on both of them
on X and S later.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
It's PS5 and PC first, yeah.
Okay.
And then there was another company who was trying to get their game on Xbox, and they're just like, Microsoft just wasn't talking to us like at all. So
yeah, I don't know. Microsoft's been fucking weird.
They're dumb. They're stupid.
Smell.
I have talked about the work of user Rumble Mins. He's a ROM hacker who has been porting older NES titles to Super Nintendo, making it 8-bit, 16-bit. But a couple days ago, he finished his port of the original Castlevania, which you can now play on Super Nintendo emulators. Don't ask me how. Since we've last talked about him, he has now ported 12 games in total from the NES to the SNES, and you can find all of those ROMs on archive on archive.org.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's amazing that can be done.
He's pushing them out, so I wonder how he's doing it so fast. I mean, it's not like every week he has a new one, but
Line of Colors is 8-bit. He just changes it to 16.
Yeah,
it works.
And I haven't played any of them myself, so I'd like to see how they operate and work. But yeah, it's very interesting.
Because that's almost like I don't know. I don't know enough about this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Because that almost feels like a, I mean, relative to an 8-bit game, that's like a HD remake. Almost.
Yeah.
Like,
you're correct.
You're upping the resolution essentially.
Nintendo
right?
did it for Super Mario All Stars.
So yeah,
They basically remade every one into Super Nintendo style. And it was good.
That's the thing that sort of inspired. Like, I'm not being facetious. That there is something inspiring about the like the retro game community and all the people that keep these things alive.
Yeah.
Whether it's ROMs or preservation
It's
or whatever.
the Thanos, I'll do it myself. Like,
Yeah.
Way of thinking. This was announced today, and I thought it was really cool. Atari, PlayOn, and Bandai Namco have teamed up to create a revision of the Atari 2600 Plus console that was released a year or two ago. It's styled after Pac-Man himself, so it's all yellow, and the controller is yellow too, and there's some black accents to it. You can also grab extra wireless 2600 controllers that are themed after all 4 ghosts, so they're each of the colors. Awesome. And then they will also release, Bandai Namco will release a line of new 7800 cartridges featuring one that has 2 of the Pac-Man games on it, Galaga, Dig Dug, etc., which will be playable on the 2600 Plus. The 2600 Plus is a brand new version of the Atari 2600, which can play the original 2600 and 7800 cartridges. So you can go find them.
That's cool.
But it also has some preloaded games on it as well.
Real quick, Tyler.
Yes.
The ghosts. Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and
I don't know.
It's okay. It's Clyde.
It's Clyde.
Okay. I really don't know.
It's okay.
George Harrison, Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney, John Lennon.
There you go.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
On top of that, there was also a surprise announcement from Digital Eclipse. They're coming out with another DLC for the Atari collection,
awesome.
featuring Bandai Namco games, which will be
Awesome.
Dig Dug.
That game was so good. That was so much fun to do that playable documentary.
They have two they have 2 DLCs out featuring the women of Atari, and then another one with some other Atari games. And then this will be the 3rd DLC coming out for it. So that's it. That's all for tidbits.
Okay, we've gone long, so I'll just go ahead and end it here.
Wow, I see how it is.
YouTube.com/Gaming Discourse, Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.